tighten my plywood here just a tad. This way. Now my seam looks really good. Now what we do here is we get a big sledgehammer and a 2x4. Now our 2x4 we'll be using in a minute. Can you hand me that piece there? This little short piece we can use for what's called endo. I have a little bit of a gap right here, and I'd like to suck that up. So we put this board down here, and we hit the board. We don't hit the plywood. All right. Now we look down here. Let's tighten that joint nicely. So again, I'll come back here. Tack this down so it doesn't move around. Get my keel. Mark's going to finish gluing over there. And I'll cut a little small piece for that. And then we'll start on our second row. Just a little over 24 inches and a little over 24 inches. So we'll make this one 24. When you're measuring, make sure you don't stick your tape in the glue, or else you'll have glue all over your fingers, like me. Whoop. Call that an air ball when you miss the joist. All right. Now what we want to do is we want to come back here and nail down, at least get one nail in each one of these, or every other one, because we want this sucked down onto the joist. When we put our next sheet on, the tongue has got to go into this groove. And if this plywood is up, we might break the groove on the plywood, and then it just makes a mess. So you try to get this down as tight as possible before you put your next sheet on. All right, this was an 8-foot sheet. Now what we want to do is we want to come here somewhere halfway, or so and so. Plywood is stronger when you stagger the joints. So if there's a joint here, and a joint there, and a joint there, then the plywood is more rigid and you get a better shear diaphragm from a staggered joint plywood layout. So Mark, let's start over here again. We'll glue this again 4 feet out. So what I'm going to do is measure over just, I think what I'll do is I'll just do it just shy of 4 feet. That's the way it lays out. And I'll put a 4-foot piece on here. That breaks this in half. And then we'll use a full sheet and a little more than a full sheet. And that way we'll get a nice, good staggering on our plywood. Now I've laid this piece down like this because I want to illustrate a point. Nobody likes squeaky floors. And one way to avoid squeaky floors is to you run the glue right down that groove. And now, can you shove that in for me, Mark? Now when we put this piece of plywood in, okay, we're in a good start. I'll let you lay that against there. I'll hand you this. And stand up here and give it a left tap. On the plywood. There you go. Before you go, what I'm going to do is I'm going to stand here because I want to make sure that I get this plywood down so it will go into this groove. So why don't we hit it on your left side first? Okay, good. Now on that end. Keep coming. Beautiful. Okay, we're going to put a nail. Make sure that we have our lap here. We're good. Maybe one more tap right there. Tighten this up just a little bit. That's good. All right. Now we can just go ahead and start gluing and going. We just keep moving on doing the same technique. I don't know if you've noticed, but I've kept all the markings on the wood up. That's the accreditation of the plywood, saying what it's made for, what it can span. It's the stamp that tells the inspector just what the spanning it can be. And so it's a good idea to keep that facing up. So if the inspector has any questions, all you need to do is just look down on the plywood. Line this guy up. All right, starting this corner over here. You'll feel it when you hit it, if it's going in or not. I felt that this piece of wood, it was kind of bowed, so a little concerned that I can get it in by myself. You need to have a little bit of weight over here and a little bit of weight over here. But it's nice and tight there. One more whack over here. And a little bit of endo from our endo board. And we're ready to tack it. All right. To mark our joists again. And again, all I'm doing is I'm tacking this every once in a while to keep it down flat and get it in contact with the glue. So when we put our next board in, we'll be in good shape. When I pulled my measurements, I pulled them from that side over, knowing full well that I'm going to spin this board I'm always trying to get the factory edge up against the other factory edge and leave the cuts for the outside. On the end where I know it's just the end of the board, I don't mind if I tap it to give it endo. It's just on the inside when I have factory edge against factory edge, I don't want to mess it up. Don't be shy with a sledgehammer. Okay.